Thank you, and welcome to another episode of Breaking Reality. I am your host, Joshua McGuire. Tonight with us, our guest is Darren McGavin, and I can tell you folks, tonight is going to be a special treat of a show. Darren, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I think we said we was going to discuss the topic of trauma and soul loss, but I think we're going to get a little deeper than that tonight too.
For sure, yeah. Thanks for having me, Josh, and good morning and good evening and good afternoon and good night to everyone listening to us tonight. My name is Darren McGavin. I'm from suburban Dublin called Ballyferma, fairly big community. My introduction to my chosen path in life, which is shamanism today, began many, many years ago through what was my trauma, my life hurts, disturbances and derailments in life. Things that I didn't know how to deal with properly, had no holding on them or understanding, and society, to some degree or another, was trying to conform me to believe that it was okay. It was only through, I suppose, several suicide attempts, going mad for the want of better words, or coming home to myself, depending on your perspective, that I had proper guidance from the right like-minded people to send me on my path. Um, I suppose my path started with family trauma first of all. There was alcoholism, like there is in most towns and villages throughout the planet. Violence, there was incest. The community I came from, we were very religious back then. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, I would have went to an all Christian brother school. The usual what everyone else would have experienced would have been bullying, etc. I suppose the demeanour on everyone going to school was the Teletubby land. Everything was perfect at home and there was no issues or no problems. But from a very early age, I suppose cracks came out within me. I knew only shamanically when I got to know myself. I knew that I suppose at the age of 5 I was different. The way they speak about Beethoven and other people like him, that he had an intuitive knowing and understanding. The only difference with me was my intuitive knowing and understanding was the fear. I could smell her a mile away. I knew when there was going to be trouble, and for some reason, I always knew what to do. I always knew what to say. It didn't stop me from getting entangled in it or becoming embroiled in it. And I suppose that's where the challenge became in not conforming. Um, at a very early age of 7, um, as most of you are probably aware of the incidences in Ireland around clerical sexual abuse, there were commissions held. There was a Lafroy commission, a Ryan report, and a Murphy report, all of which I gave testimonies to in the early 80s and 90s. Um, my perpetrator in Ireland made legal history. He was given 123 years, a sentence that's never been handed down since the foundation of the state. For those who are, I suppose, skeptical or don't understand some of this, if you Google my name, Darren McGavin, put clerical abuse, it's in black and white, it's well documented, it has been before the courts, and he has been found guilty. So to take on the Vatican Church, the fight took me almost 17 years. I've been in 3 near-death experiences. I've been dead on arrival to hospital 3 times from suicides. I've been comatose 4 times, and I am still here. So it has been somewhat of a battle, to say the least. um, I suppose my journey in healing, that I know it now today of healing, was I was directed by a film producer in Ireland that was working for RTE, and said I should see this psychotherapist. When I went and seen him, I had to ring him and say, Mick, this guy is older than time. Why are you sending me to this guy? Another therapist, another story to go back over it and over and over and over. But I chose to stay, and I listened to this man. His name was Professor Ivor Brown. He's well documented himself. He went against all the big farmers with psychoactive drugs, didn't believe in it. Um, and he became my mentor as well as my tutor, personal tutor. Um, we built up a very strong relationship together over the years. I see him as a father figure. And like any good therapist, if there is a good therapist out there, when they can't handle a person because they don't understand, I have a very simple saying in life, because psychology wants to own people's traumas, they want to own the pain, they want to label you with something. They will, when you ask them about any of the medications, the first thing they'll say is, you can get any of the symptoms. It's a cop out, you know. And for me, I was fed up with the cop outs, and I was fed up. Like, I knew what the traumas were in my life, and when it was explained to me in addictions, because I am an ex heroin user, um, that simply me trauma was the problem. I looked at the therapist as much to say, is that it? So I've just to get off the drug and deal with this. I felt it was a walk in the park. But I realised the amount of medications they had me on, I had a bigger problem. The side effects of those, and then the tablets they put me on from the side effects of those. So I came off everything. Ivor had got me to where, as I always say, a good psychologist will bring you from A to B. The next should bring you from C to D, E to F, etc., etc. But there's a point in time where, you have to stand on your own 2 feet, and you have to call a spade and say, you know, it's with me. So I went down many modalities. I tried many, many things: psychosynthesis, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, all taught by Professor Ivor Brown. Stuff that you don't just read in books. These are taught to you. You go to him, and every month you're given a book, and you have to explain this to a professor because he's only academic. And that's not to take away from anyone that's academic, of course. No disrespect meant. But as Ivor admits himself at 92 years of age, which he is, that, academia is lost in the face of healed experiences. And unfortunately, healed experiences come with a price and a cost. He referred me a while later, I suppose about 6 or 7 years into our relationship. He said to me, Darren, the doctors and the hospitals are telling you psychosis. You suffer from auditory and visual hallucinations, and that's called psychotic depression. But what I didn't understand was everything I seen. A doctor would argue that point with me, but everything I was told that came through was 100%. And I would meet people on the street. I am automatically, when I'm in a room, I can literally go over to somebody where there's trauma, and I could tell them what happened to them. And sometimes it's frightening for them. So sometimes I may have to use angel cards. I may need to use some stones. I need to integrate what's coming through so it doesn't shock them and hurt them.
Oh my God. You have such a
So
you have such a deep understanding of this. It's and you have to have such a deep empathy.
yes, sympathy is a soup you should never stay in. If you stay in the soup of sympathy, you'll become stained by it and marred by it and addicted to it. And that won't do your soul any good.
Not sympathy, empathy.
No, that's what I meant. Yeah, yeah. I'm
Okay.
just coming on top of that with the
Okay.
word sympathy. Empathy is one thing you will have. It's unique to every one of us, and it's unique to the point on a soulful level, where sorry isn't enough, never would be enough. Um, all the tears in the world for somebody else will never be enough. Words will fail you. Encyclopedias don't write about this. It's just an innate, intuitive understanding you have with just another being by being with them and sitting with them in the process of their own empathy, because it's important to get into your own empathy. Some people feel cop on, you haven't got the right to feel. There's just people worse out there. Well, I'm sorry, but if you add in addictions, beatings, shootings, stabbings, rapings, there isn't nothing on the scale of dysfunction I have not experienced. But I'm sorry, I do not have a weighing scales for that. And I don't allow it in the work that I do. I don't care if you were raped 400 times by 500 people or touched up once in an appropriate way. Trauma is trauma. And it affects you on a whole soulful, unique level that can only be described and empathized, catharted, and healed by self. To be
I,
that a death, a breakup of a marriage, it can be whatever you wanted, your trauma, your life hurts, your derailments, disturbances. There are many fanciful words for it. But as I always say to people, if you can find the meaning to your suffering, your burdens will become your blessings. And you'll actually want to go around again to have another go on that.
Continue on,
I rem
please.
I remember. I'll just go. I'll talk a little bit about your burdens becoming your blessings. I know people listen to this and may find it a little bit hard to believe, but before you judge, what I'll ask you to do is please Google me name and read what professional people or so-called professional people say happened to me and what happened, and multiply it by whatever number you want. That they're just facts and statistics. That's all they are. But on a soulful level, another human being or a soul should never even have to hear this or read it. I was down in Dundee. Ivor sent me to Dundee. Dundee is the Irish Centre for Shamanic Studies in County Trim. Martin Duffy is the director down there. And I sat with him in the room and he asked me a few questions about me life. He was very intrigued about me out of body experiences through the suicide. And about 20 minutes into the conversation, he looked at me and he says to me, I'm here interviewing you and you're reading me like a book. And I just smiled at him. I didn't answer. And he says to me, so you hear things and do you see anything in the room? And I says, of course I do. I says, there's a woman over your left shoulder. And he laughed and he says, who is she? I says, you know that yourself, it's your grandmother. And he said, could you pick her out for me from a picture? And I says, yeah, go on. So he opened his wallet and he showed me a photograph of about 15 young children in communion dresses. And he said to me, can you pick her out? And I just pointed straight to the picture. I says, that's the lady there, but it's not the lady that's beside you on the shoulder. That lady's about 83. And he just done that. Wow. He says, my grandmother was 83 about a week ago. And that picture was taken when she was 7. So there's no way you could have known that.
Yeah, no.
So we got talking and we spoke about what the doctors thought I had. They couldn't understand me near-death experiences. Even though they told me I was flatlined, I could still tell the doctor what he was wearing the night before, what he had done to my body, punching it, exactly what pen he used to write down on the paper. I told him the position I was in the room, how many people were in the room, and that my father was in the room. And he was looking at the nurses as much to say, somebody must have told him this. So I stuck with the program. I done the introduction to shamanism, and the way I basically portray it is we are all hardwired for this, and nobody will tell me any different. It's called your intuition. And there's a few things I'd like to say before we go any further. People say we make mistakes in life. We don't make mistakes. None of us came with a book. We make lifestyle choices, good and bad. From a bad lifestyle choice, we learn a positive lesson, what doesn't work for us. Some people say I keep making the same bad lifestyle choices, and I'll say, well, you're not tuning into your intuition enough. Your Bluetooth, if you're empathic and you have understanding and experience as to what somebody is trying to articulate to you, if you have that, home into that and never second guess it. When you go to second guess it, you have to tell yourself you're in an illusion straight away. So I went ahead and I done the introduction to shamanism. he, and he says to me, we're going to do some journeying and we're going to hit the drum. And I'm like, come here, is this like a bear on? You're going to bang the drum? No. I said, listen, mate, I'm not being funny with you. I'm from Ballyfermot. It's like the Bronx. That shit doesn't cut with me. And when he explained to me about using imagery and healing and using what's coming through and to trust in that, I could get myself anywhere on this planet within minutes. Then we went from doing the breath walks, we done holotropic breath walks based on Stan Groff, Sandra Ingram, and I found that hugely beneficial to cathartic any of the anger and the rage that came out. And after doing that for a while, I said to myself, I can trigger the anger and the rage, but there's fucking missing something. What is it? And here I was, it's simple. It's the stuff that doesn't belong to me. It's the shame and the guilt. What do I do with that? And I said to myself, well, I need to find out who to give that back to. And I found that by naming the shame and by guilting it in public, I was abused, I was raped. It happened since I was 7 up to I was 5. There are 230 counts of rape against me over a 5-year period, just by one man. There are other incidences with me. It took me 17 years to get it to court. It nearly killed me a few times. But in the end, I stuck to the truth and the facts, and I won. And my life, since taking on the shamanic path, has just grown from strength to strength. As I said, Ivor's 92 years of age now. I'm with him every day of the week. I get a book once a month. It could be on trauma. It could be on anything. I went from shamanic walk, then I went on to holotropic breath walk. Then I went on to transpersonal therapy. I became a therapist because everybody knows themselves. Everyone likes to be called a psychotherapist. And that's 120 quid an hour, by the way. And I'll see you next week. And you're doing a great job. And if you hadn't came to me, you could have been in a worse place than now. They didn't give the ownership of the glory back to the person for doing the work. And that's where I had a big problem. So I'm after fighting to keep myself alive through so many suicides. I kept myself off drugs. But if they go to a therapist and he gets the glory at the end of it, I'm sorry, no, it doesn't work that way. I learned that self-respect, to find self, to find the dignity, to stand in my humility, to honor myself. And for some strange reason, gratitude came in. I was grateful for once for the inflictions that were caused upon me, because if that hadn't happened, sure, I'd only be a psychotherapist. I wouldn't be able to meet a person on a soulful level to help them heal. I don't do anything for the person. I merely help them, facilitate them, and when they say they want to go down this road, I go down that road with them. I say, these are the things that's going to happen. I know this land very well. If you go down here, this is going to happen. And if you go down this land, this is going to happen. And I invite you not to believe a single word I say. Go down and try it for yourself. See what fits or what doesn't fit. Either way, I'll be beside you. And that's the path I went down. I had a very huge awakening one day. We done the thing on a silent path. It's a silent weekend. And on it, we just get paired with just about anyone. There's no alphabets or any numbers or pulled out of a hat. And I got picked with this chap. And if he wants to sing for an hour, we sing. If he wants to drum for an hour, we drum. If he wants to be quiet, we be quiet. And if I want to stand beside him and hug him while he's hugging a tree, that's okay. It's about being present to the person without perving him out or wrecking his head. And I remember him looking at his watch and him pointing at it as much to indicate it's my turn. And with that, I heard the church bells in Dundee. So I'll give you an indication of Dundee. When you drive into it, it has a shop with a petrol station outside. There's a GAA grounds across the road, a church with 2 pubs, and that's it. You could walk through Dundee in 20 seconds. And with that, I heard the church bells ring, and I said to myself, well, fuck you. You're calling me out here. You're calling me out. And over in Ireland, I don't know whether it's the same in America, The church bells ring to call you to prayer 15 minutes before the hour. So it was
I
around quarter. It was around
they
quarter
they
to
only
12.
really ring them on Sunday mornings in my community.
Yeah, quarter to 12. And it went off. And I remember strutting down the road like that, giving it socks. And I remember looking at the door. The door was about 20 feet, 30 feet away. And I said to myself, the monkeys came into the mind. The fucking door's closed. And then me logic kicked in. Darren, you're from Ballyfermot. You can get in anywhere. Doesn't matter if it's like Fort Knox, you're still going to get in there. I put my hand on the door, walked in. I indicated to the chap to sit down. And I went to the Stations of the Cross. And I looked up and I says, they are being judged, you arsehole. I'm being judged all my life and I didn't even do anything wrong. And there you are falling the first time and the second time. And sure, look at me. All I seem to be doing is falling on me shagging life. And I went around the Stations of the Cross. Now, for somebody to be abused to the level, according to the Murphy report in Ireland, this priest is the most prolific sex offender to become before its findings. The Vatican Church has stated that this man is more famous than any pope. He's admitted to over 200 people that he can, quote, remember, but he's admitted to none. You have to drag him all the way. So I remember looking up at the church and I said to myself, risen from the fucking dead. You're risen from the dead. Why haven't you got an empty cross if you're risen from the dead? And I done something that I shouldn't have done, but I felt I had to do it. I went in and re-traumatized myself. I went into the sacristy, and there's your woman, and she's swinging the chalice with the smoke, the urn, the smoke coming out of it. And I went into the toilet, and I was shaking here. Was holy Jesus Christ, what am I doing to myself? What are you doing? And I says, the only thing I'm missing is a shagging priest and the crudes and the water and the wine. And true or no, it was the words out of my mouth. When I walked out of the toilet, there was a priest standing there pouring wine into the crudes and water. And I just took a fit of laughing. And he just says to me, do you find something funny? I says, come here, if I started talking, I says, you'd be inconsolable. I find it so funny that you might go into a depression over it. And I remember walking halfway down the aisle, making my way towards the exit, and a penny dropped. It was very profound. And I remember looking up at the church, at the crucifix, saying, I'd like to apologise for coming into your house to start the trouble. The person that done something to me, I done something about that. I done it. I got him locked up. I made legal history. I nearly died because of this. And not even you could kill me. And I assume you done that because this had to stop. So I accept that. And then as I was walking out, I grabbed the handle and I looked at him again and I went, actually, I want to thank you. Thank you very much for all the beatings, the bullying, the incest in the family, the rape, the shooting, the stabbing, the drugs. I want to thank you all for that. And if ever you need somebody to go around that loop again, don't let somebody else do it. I'll have another basher for them. I'll go again. And I just had a profound understanding. I just intuitively and instinctively knew that my burdens were my blessings. Now, some people might see that as hypocritical. They may see it as, oh, God was speaking to you. I don't give a rat's what people think. I came into my own being then, into my own knowing, back into myself. My soul came back into my body. And ever since then, I've been traveling the path. I've done anything that has destroyed me in my life. I've learned it inside out. So I went to Alateen. I've chaired Alateen meetings. I've chaired Al-Anon meetings, and I've chaired AA meetings. I've been to NA because of my own issues with drugs. I've chaired meetings there. I have also sat on many a school board talking about suicidal and ideation self-harm because I can. Because the people are standing up there that are being paid for it wouldn't know how to kill themselves if their life depended on it. They wouldn't know the aftermath. They wouldn't know the devastation. They just punch out statistics. That's all they do. They know nothing about the soul and the death that comes along with suicide. So I've made it my lifelong ambition so far. My journey started when I was 5, as I said. The raping and all the pillaging and all that crap started when I was 7. I'm 49 now. I'm loving life. I have plenty of clients, um, like-minded souls that just need guidance. So I've studied the CBT, DBT, addiction studies, psychosensitives. Family constellation work is very important to me. It's how to backtrack where the trauma came from. And not to forgive the person that gave the trauma. I'm not on about restorative justice or forgiveness or releasing even. It's simply about trying to understand minimum that behind a story there is a story. And it would be remiss of me in my profession and in myself to listen to only the survivors and victims without wanting to hear the other side, regardless of whether I want to accept it or not. But to minimum hear it, because people will know when I say this that you can't fool a fool. They can tell us any story they want, but we will know in our hearts of hearts if they're telling shit or telling crap or trying to cop out on all this. So that's where I've basically been for, I suppose, the last 13, 14 years. I've built up lots of clients to come and see me. They come from, they always come. I always say to them, what has you here today? I never say what psychiatrists say. What's wrong with you? So there's nothing wrong with us. I always say, what's with you? And I don't care about yesterday. What's with you now? Tell me what brought you to where you are today. And tell me why you're here. And did you go to a therapist with that? And I'll always get the same answer. Always. I went to this therapist, I went to that therapist, I went to this, and this didn't
Yep.
work. But I also say, in fairness to the therapists, did you give the therapist enough information? Did the therapist make your setting safe enough for you to be vulnerable in? I don't work off offices, I work off my home, I work off their home. I may walk off a beach, they may want to kneel down on the sand and start punching the shit out of that sand to catart something, they may want to vomit. Diarrhea might want to come out. They might want to scream their lungs off. And if you're standing in the middle of a river, miles away, and people are walking by seeing you doing this, they're going to just say, water must be cold today. That's all. Whatever happens with that person in that process is none of my business. They may want to tell me about it. They may not want to tell me about it, and I'm okay with that. I just want them to understand why they're doing it, and that they're not self-harming. They have to know the difference between getting it out and hurting themselves, and how to hand it back, how to physically hand something back with love. Hand it back with love. Don't hand it back with hate, because karma's going to come around and hand it to you on a bigger plate. Hand it back with love. Look for the positive in the negative. Some people say, God, you've been through a lot and blah. I've heard all this stuff. Oh, poor Darren, poor this. Would you feck off? So if that didn't happen to me, how could I be in a position to help people help themselves? And now I have the likes of therapists asking me onto their panels to discuss certain things. That I always say, Ivor taught me this, a 92-year-old professor. Academia is lost in the face of healed experience. He says, Darren, never let another human being undermine you when it comes to your experiences and how you've helped heal yourself from that. And never be demeaned by anyone in a suit or a shirt and a tie. It's just a costume. And he always said to me at the end of the day, stand in your humility and stand in your integrity. If you can find a meaning to your suffering, you're laughing. You are laughing, because you will turn those burdens into blessings, and you will not be the victim anymore. You will not be the survivor. You will just be yourself. And as I said, sometimes the analogy I use around soul loss with trauma, it's very, very simple. There are many ways of explaining it, so I would explain it so how everyone would understand it. If you live in a rough area and you know there's a mad pub where people are mad, and you said to a friend, come on in here, it's a bit of crack, and they went in and somebody got sliced with a bottle, that would be normal to you. At some stage they're going to go, this is a kip. Then you're going to invite them to another pub. Same thing is going to happen, only worse. 4 or 5 pubs down the way, they are going to say, I've enough. I'm not going into the next pub. That is soul split. The soul, you've put your soul in danger. Your soul wants out. A lot of your viewers will agree with me. I'm sure you will yourself. We could be around 1,000 like-minded people in a room, and we will be the only person in that room. We will feel that alone. We will feel that alone. So my work has brought me to several different modalities. Unlike psychotherapy, I call it wallpaper. They like to have the big cert behind them and the gold stamp and the bit of candle wax, and I know it all and I don't have to do any more. Well, I'm sorry, since 2010, since I finished my trial, I've been in minimum 3 colleges a year, and that's different assignments and different parts of Ireland. It's travelling. So I do the work, and I'll continue to do the work, because we are evolving as spiritual beings. As I always say to people, we're not human beings. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, or not so humane experience. And it takes people like us to change the course of history, or to change the ancestral baggage that's with us. And what's with me, I understand completely. It's incestual. It happened in my past lives through my own family, my father's family. It can be easily tracked. It's with me now, and for some reason, I was chosen to be strong enough to stop this at any cost, and that included life.
You're talking about breaking ancestral curses.
Yes, of course.
This is deep
We didn't.
This is deep stuff, Darren. This is stuff that most people want to do but have no clue how to do.
Well, it's simple. Buy a book. There's a book out there called It Didn't Start With You. It's a very easy book. There's no big words, there's no big language, and it simply means what it says. This shit did not start with you. And if you track it through family constellations, in family constellations we use dolls. They're like little Lego people. And I will ask somebody when I'm talking to them, because there can be a lot of anger and hatred and barriers we put up around family. Me dad was a this, me ma was a that. Da 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 da, and it was somebody else's fault. So I always say, well, pick out somebody to represent your mother and your father. And we can do this in real time in group settings, or we do it with dolls if it's one-to-one. And it's amazing when you see them putting the first 2 dolls out. You see Mammy and Daddy. And then I'll say to them, stick somebody out there to represent yourself, any colour you like. And straight away the picture emerges. I'll say, why is Mammy and Daddy so far apart? What's going on there, please? Tell me what's going on. Then they will discuss, Mammy didn't get on with Daddy because... And they will tell a story. And why you seem to be more close to Daddy than you are to Mammy? What's going on there? And then they'll put another person miles away, and I'll say, what's going on there? Oh, that's me brother, he died. In the orders of love, nobody has the right to be excluded from a family, including a dead person. So you need to bring that person back into the picture and lie them down. So we need to acknowledge them. Maybe that's the reason why Mammy and Daddy don't get on. Somebody didn't do something right. And then we will bring in siblings, then if we need to bring in grandparents. And by the time we're finished, maybe one of my consultations could take 3 hours. There's no psychotherapists that do 3 hours. Not a chance. Sometimes 3 hours could be too much, but I leave that up to the client. But sometimes what I need to do with the work I do is I need everyone to open their own Monopoly board. I need them to place out the chance cards. I need to place themselves on the board, and I need them to be in control of running the dice. And after everybody's had a spin of the board, that's enough for me. I'm not interested in the story anymore. I don't care what happened to you. It's irrelevant. But what was done to you and the effects it's had on you, and what's with you now, and what's stopping you moving forward, living a soulful life, what's stopping you from creating anger in you, jealousy, rage, that's what's important. That's the stuff we need to untangle that doesn't belong to you. And in equal and proportionate measures, it's important to dish that out accordingly with love. Because if you have an understanding or you want to have it. You'd be remiss of me to sit with a client and accept everything they're telling me that it was somebody else's fault. I'll accept that to a certain point, and then I'll say, well, come here, let's hold on a minute here. What was going on? And then we get to, what we get to do is dilute it a little bit. And then instead of them telling untruths and trying to fool themselves, some truths come out. I knew something was wrong, but I was afraid to say anything about it. That's okay. I accept that you were young. You hadn't got the proper support. You hadn't got the proper, but you were aware. Yeah. So you were aware at 7 years of age. So you were in awareness at 7. So I need to bring you back there. And you were in the frozen past, as Ivor calls it, the frozen past. An incident is frozen in past, and I need to go back in time to unthaw that as an adult to make it make sense to you, so you relive it in the present, experience it in the present, cathartic it in the present, and hand it back in the present, and move on from that. Because the past, as I said, is a place of reference, not residence. We don't suffer with the past. We suffer with the emotions, the memories, and the traumas, difficulties, and derailments of our pasts. But the past is gone, and we can't suffer from the future because it hasn't happened yet. So we can only but be present. So if these derailments and these traumas are affecting our present, affecting our relationships, stopping love from flowing from one generation to the next because of programs, reliving programs that ancestors have basically, when you go to school, you're basically told what to do. I've a simple thing I do with people. I'll do it here straight for you now. What colour do you see? Just go with that one. Black. Any psychiatrist, I don't care if he's a professor, put him in front of me. What colour is that, please? Black. And I'll just go into baby mode for him. How do you know it's black? Well, I was told it was black. Who told you it was black? Well, my ma told me when I was a kid it was black, and when I went to school they told me it was black. And who told them it was black? And we can keep going back to the day that it is whatever it is. It's a fucking lighter. It works or it doesn't work. It's simple. and we're told by society that the colours of the spectrum, and we only see in grey, blah blah blah. And if you wear black, that's what the spectrum is blocking out mostly, and that's what's projected onto you. Wake up, everyone, will you? It is whatever you need it to be. We make our own. If you think positive, you eat positive and sleep positive. If you speak positive, positive shit's going to happen. There's no sure thing. And in between that is just negative people that you're allowing in your space. Or life. And how you choose to respond or react to that, I leave with you. But I wouldn't have you feeding it, because then you wouldn't be in a positive place. That's saying we all have our ups and downs, and we have our monkeys that like to creep in now and again and give us a right old kick in the arse. And that's it. It's like as if I was sitting here talking to you all. I'm sure somebody's saying, I wish he'd ever shut the fuck up.
Everyone is absolutely loving this. Just keep going.
So when you hear yourself, and you will hear yourself, it's your intuition talking to you. When people are talking shit, there's two things you can do. Just give them a hug and say, you're alright. Or you can just say, listen, I can't stay long. You have my phone number. If you want to take this up at a later date when you're in a better place, talk to me. I have people that gob off to me in all the most negative of ways. Toxic people. And I say to them, are you finished? Yeah. Come here to me. And I give them a hug whether they want it or not. There's a hug. If you want to start an argument, it's very simple. You done this, you done that, you said this and you said that. There's a scrap straight away. But when you start and you come from the heart space and you say, you know what, my sense is you're having a very bad day. And you're not normally like this. I sense somebody might have really upset you to go on like that. You're a lovely person. Is there anything I can do for you? Would you like a hug? You watch what will happen. You watch the change. They will change. This planet has been conformed since the age of 6 through other people's belief structures that are based on books. Every time when I was doing psychotherapy in Minute, Every time I asked the question, I was told, "Oh, you want to be reading that book, chapter 5? What? To read 200 pages just to get an answer? Seriously? Is there nobody has an answer for me?" And oh, by the way, Darren, see the way you speak, you're not allowed to do that in psychotherapy. Why not? Well, you're not allowed to divulge a little bit about yourself. Well, if I don't divulge a bit about myself, what chance have I got them of opening up? Well, if they see me as an equal, and they see me as maybe worse than them, they might try to, if the word is the right word, relax me by telling me that their story, that hey, you're not the only one.
Well,
everyone wants to keep the big dirty secret that doesn't belong to them.
I think at that point in time, though, people see that you've been through this fight. You've walked through that battle.
Yes.
And it, I think it inspires hope because people see you've made it through. So if they're still in that fight in their head, there's hope.
Of course there's hope.
And hope is powerful.
Yeah. Hope is the light. And that comes armed with 3 protectors: patience, tolerance, and time. If you have those 3 and you can adopt them and keep hope, you've got the biggest army around you on the planet. Nobody will defeat that. Nobody. I don't care how negative they are, I don't care how many there are, and I don't care how evil they are. They won't beat it.
Darren, someone asked earlier if you could go in on the go into more depth on the near-death experiences, if you would mind.
What would they like to know, please? Specific? Is there anything specific, or have they got a specific question?
If they want to type the question in, I will ask it.
Sure, yeah.
We can give them.
Am I okay? Am I okay to have a fag on this?
Yes, yeah.
Just give me 10 seconds.
Okay. He's gonna go grab a cigarette, guys.
I'm not a smoker per se, but what I will tell you I do is, if I'm in the smoke, need of having a smoke or the mood, I'm having a smoke.
Hey, it makes sense.
Sometimes I light a cigarette and I go, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? And I'll throw it away. And other days I'll just have one and I'll say, yeah, I needed that.
Yeah, I've had those days.
If you can just inform your listeners and your viewers, please don't be shy with any questions, and do not hold back or try to elaborate or put a bow around a piece of shit. It's shit. There's no need for sprinkles or bows here. Just say it the way it is, and I take absolutely no offense to anything anyone has to say or how it's phrased.
Okay. They said, what happened on the near-death experience? What happened on the other side?
The first near-death experience I experienced was a canal. It was about 30 milligrams of Dalmane in me, sleeping tablets. I had a box of olanzapine, which are antipsychotics, and I had a bottle of Jameson in me. I was after coming from a karaoke competition that I won. Went for a walk, and halfway over where I lived there was a canal bridge. I'm very familiar with the canal bridge. And for some reason, this voice just said, jump. I had not, they called me impulsive suicidal, where once the thought comes in, I can't even stop it. Where you get people who do suicide and they write letters, they become grossed in the story, the sadness of who they're leaving behind, and it makes them more depressed. I don't get that. I just get, do it, and you're gone. So I remember jumping. It was around December. So it would have been quite cold in Ireland, and the water would have been quite icy. And when I hit the water, there was actually somebody in the water. Now, I'm from Ballyfermot, so this stuff is even say, like, seriously, like, who the fuck's gonna be in the water? There was somebody in the water. I can't explain it. I remember then being slumped on top of the bridge in a slumped position, and all I remember seeing was blue lights. And I just seen this shadow, and this voice said to me, Darren, you're going to be okay. And then I just remember being wrapped in tin foil, and that's all I remember. It seemed like only moments, but I remember being stuck in a room, so you can see my ceiling there. So I was up like that, hands like that, and I remember saying, my fucking neck is killing me. I really felt my neck was bent into the corner of the ceiling, and it stretched, and I was looking down. And I remember seeing my father crying his eyes out. And I remember him kept saying, I'm going to kill the bastard. I'm going to kill him for what he done to him. If he dies, I'm going to kill him. And with that, they were using the irons on my chest. And it was just, zzz, not that beep, and then clear, and the man kept doing it and doing it. And I remember they were panicking with the machine. I don't know whether there was an issue with the machine or not, but they began punching me chest. And I was just sitting there observing it. I was very relaxed, very calm. There was no angels singing. There was no fucking harps being played. I was just in a place of utter calm and peace. Tranquility or bliss would be a word I'd use. I don't remember much after that. I remember the doctor writing. And he had, I don't know whether you're aware of this, sometimes surgeons use them. They're like a steel elastic band they have on their wrists, like a wristwatch, and it pulls their sleeves up if they're doing anything, keeps their wrists free. And I remember him punching the shit out of me. I just remember waking up and alarm bells going off. I couldn't speak. Whatever had happened to me in the process, I was tongue-tied. I literally couldn't speak. So they gave me an injection and a load of saliva came down, and the nurse said, "Are you okay?" And I says, "Yeah, I'm grand, thank you." And with that particular doctor walked in. Now I know that doctor's name to be Dr. Plunkett. I met him years later. And I said to him, "How are you? How's it going?" And he looked at me very surprised, and he looked at the nurses and he said, "There's much to say, you know, how long is he awake?" And she said, "He's just awake." And I said to him, "Can I ask you a question?" And the doctor says, "Yeah." I says, "Why did you punch the chest on me last night? What did I do wrong?" And he kept looking at the nurses and they kept nodding. I says, "Why is everybody looking at each other and nodding?" And he says, "Darren, you couldn't have remembered me doing that. You were dead." And I started laughing. I goes, "No, so I was watching you." And he goes, "No." He says, "You were dead, so your eyes were closed." And I goes, "No, so up there, I was looking at you up there." And he says to me, "What did you see exactly?" I says, "Well, you had got grey slacks on, you had a white shirt with green and grey stripes in it, you had a dicky bow on with polka dots, and you had steel elastic bands, like off wristwatches, on both hands." I says, "But when you were finished, you were writing with a calligraphy pen." And that was the most poignant bit for me. He goes, "What do you mean a calligraphy pen?" I says, "I've been in and out of psychiatric units, and I've learned how to do calligraphy with a normal pen, because I couldn't afford, they wouldn't give me a sharp fountain pen in there. So I learned to do it with a normal pen." And he says to me, "Really?" And I says, "Yeah, sure, I'll go one better for you." I says, "The pen you have is marble, and the nib on it is a 22 karat gold Schaefer nib." And he looked at me and goes, "Wow." And he opens his jacket like this, and he says, "Could you pick it out?" And I says, "That one there is a pencil, and if you keep tapping that, the lead comes down." And I showed him, "There, look." And then I held it and pushed the lead back up. I says, "That's the pen." And when I showed it to him, he went, "Wow." That's all he could say was, "Wow." And then I was rushed from there then into a psychiatric unit, put on medication, and suppressed as always. Doped out your nut, security guard on you, and you're monitored. So that was one of the incidents. Another incident would have been at a river where there's a weir, a very strong weir. For some reason I was there with the mates. I think I had 2 litres of cider in me. I wasn't drunk, I'm Irish, I know how to drink. And I remember just saying to myself, "You know what, this planet's a fucking kip. I'm getting off this." The lad said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm getting in here." "Darren, don't get in there. You won't be able to manage it." Now, I am a strong swimmer. And I jumped in. And I remember going down. And I panicked. And I said to myself, "Fuck this." And I tried to swim under it, the current. And it had me. And a voice came into my head and just said to me, "Darren, I need you to take the biggest deep breath ever. Keep your legs tight and your hands across your chest, and you're going to float across. All I could think was the rocks breaking my arms and my legs, and I would drown that way. I ended up about 2 miles downstream and was wondering, how am I going to get back up here through all the nettles, the brambles, the thorns? I'm going to be ripped to bits. Now, this is a guy that wanted to kill himself, and I was more worried about nettle stings. But what had happened on that incident, before the end of it, my grandfather had died probably 2 weeks previous. So I never attributed the death to the suicide. But it was like somebody came at me with a full-length photograph in my face of my granddad. And that's when the fight came into me. But I was peaceful and tranquil throughout the whole lot of it. Another suicide then was a train bridge where we live. Ivor always remarks, he says to me, I'm glad you missed the train. I jumped over, seen the train coming, ran across the road, jumped up on the wall and jumped straight off. It'd probably be, I'd go as far as maybe 35 foot drop. Hit the deck, shattered the left ankle, bone sticking out. And I was, I was just crying because I missed the train. And this voice and a hand came on my shoulder and said, Darren, it's not your time. It's not your time. You've work to do. I didn't know what they meant. And I went home. I had to climb up over the bloody wall through brambles again. My mother just said to me, what happened to you? And I just had to let on I was playing in a playground on a swing. I was pushed too high and I came off it and caught my ankle. And then in therapy, I told the truth, what had really happened. And they sedated me and put me into a psychiatric unit again for 3 months. So that was three incidences there. But there were 2 other after that where I was completely flatlined, dead as a dodo, dead to the world. But every time you wake up, there's somebody in a white coat. Do you know where you are? Yeah. So I've been shot, stabbed, raped. I told an uncle about the abuse because I thought it was safe. The priest used to put me over a coffee table and there was candles used and crucifixes, 7-Up bottles. And I knew there was something not right then. And I remember one day he said to me, if you ever tell anyone, you know you'll burn in hell for all eternity. And he showed me a gospel and you could see hell in it. I found it, during the summer it was unusual that a communion candle, what kids hold on First Communion, was light. But little did I know what he was going to do with that candle. So the burn from a cigarette is one thing. The burn from a cooker is another thing. But the burn from a candle up that direction is something that will never leave you. And defecation, and then the embarrassment came, and then I was in his pocket and I couldn't open my mouth then. And then when I told an uncle about it, he said to me, show me what he was doing to you. So I showed him. So when he started doing it to me, I just assumed this was the norm. So I just went with the flow. So I got out of the my last psychiatric admission was when I was 21. I'm 47 now. I have 3 children. Jake is 25, Alexandra is 23, and Chuckles, Charlie, he's 14. They know my life story. I've had to tell them. I suffer with PTSD, obsessive compulsive. I like a clean house. I get up every morning. But since this journey began, I've noticed big changes. We spoke on Messenger before about this. I've noticed with the spiritual path I'm on, it doesn't matter if I have a bath, a drink, medication, regardless of the scenario or how I play it out, I cannot sleep before 3 a.m. in the morning. I can't. It's impossible. Even if I take sleepers with drink, I still won't sleep. And I will wake up at either 5:45 or 6:15. I.e. minimum, never more than 2 meals a day. I could get out of a car and push it up a motorway. I'd probably get a speeding ticket for it. I have that much, I've that much energy. It just blows me away where it comes from. So that's where my journey has been spiritually. But I always say to people, and I hope your viewers are listening to this, Sometimes when we're standing on the pebbles of life, and I ask the clients to lift each pebble and make sure you leave none of them unturned, and have a look at that and see what part of that doesn't belong to you, or does belong to you even, and move forward from it and learn how to give it back. What they forget is they've been standing on pebbles, and that's the bit they've left out. They go to move forward and they're stuck in life. There's something, I'm not forgetting something. And the something, the pebbles are normally the shame and the guilt that does not belong to them. It doesn't belong to them. It's ingrained in you. It's like getting a brand new mirror and somebody putting a scratch in you. You just learn to look at it a different way. But if you can look at it as a blessing, I know nobody wants to hear this. How can you look at that as a blessing? Trust me, when you look at it as a blessing, and when you know that people come to you because you have the answers and you don't know, and I attribute a lot of my spiritual work to spirit works through me. When I'm talking, if you were in dialogue with me, the eyebrow will go up, the head will turn, I'll be spoken to, and I will be able to say things that I couldn't possibly. I could put 20 people in front of you today to tell you how I met them and what I told them about their lives, and that I couldn't have possibly known that. I haven't got an answer, but the only answer I have is I don't believe in a God. I believe we are all gods. So the way I attribute spirit to each and every individual is if we were all little Caspers, we all had the same face, and we all attain some information through experience, good, bad, or indifferent. When we go through the door into the next life, we bring that with us, and we choose the life we have today. I'm under no illusion, even when I do ayahuasca. Shamans, we do ayahuasca, we do kambo, cleansing.
I'm very familiar with ayahuasca. I've had quite a few experiences with it myself.
Now, a lot of people, your viewers might say, I've had horrible experiences, and I can attribute that to only one thing. Have you done your homework on yourself? Do you know yourself inside out? And that has affected you all your life. Have you studied it while you're on it? Not the drug. I don't want you to sit there for a month looking at cocaine, heroin, barbiturates, whatever. Why were you on it? What got you to that point?
Right.
That you felt, and you do the work on that, so that when you navigate all this nasty land and the devil. When I'm an ayahuasca, I just say to her straight away, I surrender and release. I want to go to hell, please. When I go to hell, folks, there's nobody there. That they're afraid. They're afraid of the truth. They're afraid of the facts, and that's all I work with is the truth and the facts. I will listen to your story all day long, but I will not let you get it that engrossed that it will depress you even more. I will show you where the hope is and where the light is. And what you decide to do with that is entirely your own business. Some people step their foot into the pool of misery for 5 minutes. They'll tell me something and they refuse to speak. And that's okay. They might come back 3 months later. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I could get a phone call. I've often got a phone call at 11 at night. And the girlfriend would come down and she'd say to me at 8 o'clock the next morning, are you still on that call? Yes. I'm holding somebody till they can get to me or till I can get to them. And that's what makes the difference. And don't do me thinking for me. Don't think, oh, he's in bed with the girlfriend or he's having a few pints or he's out with the lads. You make that text. Can you call? And I will do, if I'm on a call, I will tell somebody I need to get somebody straight away, and I'll get back to you as soon as I get off the phone to them. And that's what humanity and psychiatrists won't do. You won't get a psychiatrist before 10 a.m. in the morning, and you certainly won't get him after 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And he certainly won't take a text from you during the week. Why? Because you're buying into his money. You know, he wants you there next week. So that, and what do psychiatrists do? I'll talk you through it. So you meet them next week. The clock is ticking. It's always behind you, so he can see it. Now, Darren, well, my sense last week was when we finished was you said this. Then we talked 15 minutes about what we said last week. That's the past. It's gone. And how are you feeling today about that? There's another 15 minutes gone. Then you actually get to what's with you today. There's another 15 minutes. And then he does this. Just want to flag it with you. We've another 15 minutes left. And what do we all do? Talk bullshit. We talk shit. And then when you leave there, you spend the whole week saying, I should have said this, I should have said that, I could have done this, I could have done that. and nothing gets happened. And then you wonder why you're in therapy for fucking 5 years. My job as a shamanic practitioner is to find out where the problem is and who it's with and how to hand that back with love. And then we look at you and see, is there anything going internally? Is there any toxins inside you? Is there any extractions to be done? Are you in touch with your soul? Are you in touch? Is your soul fucked off somewhere? I might have to get my spirit guides to go in and help you with that, to reunite you, to tell that inner child, it's okay to come home. It's safe now. But we need to go back to those dark places, but I'll be with you. I need you to understand what was going on. You don't need to excuse it. You don't need to forgive it. You don't need to feel, if you can only feel empathy for yourself, you've no right feeling sympathy for them. You leave that with them with love. And sometimes it's not with the parent. Sometimes I have a stone here, I'll show you. So this is a stone, this is some of the work I do. I would have that outright with somebody like that, their arms all stretched. And I'd get them to name their misery and their shame, and their hands would be shaking, trembling. And you'll feel it ripping across the shoulders, and they'd be like that. And I might say to them, my sense is that doesn't belong to your mother. I believe your mother was conditioned and she had no other option. She didn't have a choice. She hadn't got the guidance. I think you might want to leave that with the ancestors. Leave that behind her and reconnect. And the feedback I get off a lot of people when they do the work, because the work works if you do the work.
Can you just stop for a second and go back to that, because that's really significant what you just said. I really want the listeners to get that.
Okay. So what part, please?
Just where you talked about leaving that with the ancestors, because that was something that she was conditioned into.
Yeah. Well, I'll add a slant to it for you with an experience I had. And any experience I give, everything is confidential with me, but I do ask people if I need to explain something, if I leave your name out, is it all right to tell your story? And they always say yes. Because, you know, I'm a counsellor, I'm a therapist, I'm a facilitator. Right. So we're all in counsel together here. There's nobody any better than anyone else. So sometimes, especially in, I suppose, communities, we didn't have tellies back in the 60s or the 50s. We'll go back as far as the 30s. No television. Back then, people married for sex. You know, and what happened then, there was people that were born, there was not even 9 months between children. Then you had 9 children in a house, 2-bedroom house. Father wasn't working. The mother was a homemaker. She had her own story from her past, and the father had his. The woman's place is in the home. Then all of a sudden you have a daughter that's waking up with a little itch down there. She's hitting that age of puberty where she's an itch. Her breasts are growing and he's waking up in the morning and he's stabbing her in the back with something. He doesn't know what it is. She's touching him, he's touching her. It's a nice feeling. All of a sudden that's just love. Them two get on like a house on fire until somebody in society decides to demonize it and call that's incest. That's wrong. How could something feel so right and be so wrong? The only thing that's wrong is, it's simple, that it wasn't spoke about. I've had clients say to me, you know, what's with me is my brother suicided. And what happened there, please? Well, you know, he touched me here and he touched me there and that's incest and he's a paedophile. Okay. And you done nothing back yourself? Because there's only like a couple of months between you, and if you go by science, you're 2 years older than him in anyway. So, did you touch him back? Well, yeah, I did. Did you talk to him about that? Or did you let him own that? No, he owned it. So he committed suicide because of it, because you told him he was a paedophile, when in fact you had a part to play in it. Your family didn't need to know, your brothers and sisters didn't need to know. There just needed to be an understanding between the two of you that something happened that you weren't sure of or aware of. It was nice, but it was wrong, because you're brothers and sisters. And that's the only conversation that needed to be had. But now you're left, not with the incest bit, or him being a paedophile, you're left with feeling like you're the reason why he died. When it wasn't, it was just society. There wasn't enough jobs, there wasn't enough houses, there wasn't enough bedrooms, there wasn't enough beds. And shit happened. There was lack of education. Back then the church told you can't wear contraception, and the woman has to lie there and take it from the man and get pregnant and keep having all these feckin' babies. They didn't knock around the church every week to give you a few quid to feed the babies. And sometimes you'll hear parents say a lot of the time, especially in my family, would have been, you know, that's none of your business. That's grandma. I remember coming in drunk one night and my dad says to me, you'd want to get over this whole rape thing. And I says, well, Dad, if you write that down on a very small stamp, I'll read that and I'll get over it, because I've tried everything else. Well, I was abused myself, and so what, I have to go on, you got over it? I says, yeah. He says, I forgot about it. I says, you didn't do a very good job. I said, if you're able to tell me about it, which tells me you didn't deal with it, and you want me to accept that just was what it was in our family. I'm sorry, I don't accept that. That's my brother, and he done that, and he was interfered with by the priest. And I understand that he may have got a nice feeling from that and thought it was all right. He maybe thought he was doing it to the sister, and that was all right. She probably felt it was good, and she was doing something for the other brother. And that's all I see that happened there. So I don't see it as incest. I see it as a lack of understanding, a lack of education, and a lack of guidance. And as I said to my mother's sister was dying, and I said to her, she's got about 2 hours to live, man. Will you do me a favour? This stuff is with you. What happened to you, between you and her? Can you just say to her, Sylvia, I'm aware of what happened. I know it wasn't your fault. It's with me a long time. I love you, or I forgive you, or whatever the word is that come out. And that may free her from that, and it may free you from that. But expecting me to believe that it's okay and it's acceptable, I'm sorry, that doesn't cut with me. That's not correct. So in the ancestral work we do, I'm very much aware that nobody licked this stuff off a stone. It came from somewhere. So it's learned behavior, it's lack of understanding, and that's all it is. And you're leaving it with them. And you're probably aware, in the ayahuasca retreats, we do purging. We purge a lot. It could come out diarrhea, or it could come out through vomiting. And every experience I have, when I'm vomiting, the bag is over my head. You're aware of this process?
Oh yeah, I use a bucket. My face is in the bucket.
Yeah. I actually see my ancestors, and I thank them. They actually step forward to vomit, and they say, thank you, Darren. So if you believe in purgatory, and you're there to get rid of your sins, I'm opening up a portal for them. I allowing them to vomit through me. 9 times out of 10, I'd look in the bag, and somebody would be saying to me, Jesus, Darren, you have to be in vomiting for half an hour. But there's nothing in the bag. It's a spiritual purge.
It's a dry heaving.
No, I mean vomiting. I would physically feel like I am vomiting my guts up. I've often went to the toilet. This might sound a bit crude. There'd be 5 or 6 large bursts coming out, and I'd say to myself, what the fuck? The hands would be shaking. And I'd hear her talking to me, Darren, we need to get this anxiety out of you. And you feel somebody just moving their hands down like that, and you can feel it coming out of you. And I'd go to wipe myself, and there'd be nothing in the bowl. I would use the toilet paper, nothing on the toilet paper. But I know that would have been a release, and I'm always told, thank you for helping us purge. And I would always say, when I'm going on my shamanic journeys, there's something with the family at the moment, and I'd like some guidance on that. If there's anyone that needs to step forward, that may need some healing, to allow that to happen. There was incest going back right through my father's generation, and I'll tell you how it affects it. Vessel van der Kolk talks about it a lot. The body keeps the score. What happens in the physical is manifested from the emotional and the psychological, and the subconscious and unconscious. It's with you. You can talk all day long. As I say to people, I can send you to the Maldives for 2 weeks. I can send you to the moon. But as that plane lands, as it's landing, your baggage gets there before you. And before that shuttle comes down, your baggage is sitting waiting for you. So deal with your crap now that doesn't belong to you, and hand it back so you can live a freer life. And if there's something that you've done to somebody else, talk about it. Dialogue it. regardless of the consequences. I can guarantee you there won't be a judge on the planet that will lock you up because if they want to use the word incest, you interfered with somebody at 13 years of age, 15 years of age, and you tell them your story that somebody had interfered with you. A psychologist will stand up very quickly to say that was learned behaviour. That's not paedophilia. He's not a barbaric animal. He's not a predator. But he hasn't done it since. We hope he hasn't done it since. Or if he has, that can be fixed or mended. And in some cases it can't be with people that are demonised. And by handing back, a lot of people would identify with this, and I'm not just using incest or rape, I'm using alcoholism or drugs and the life they were handed, the cards they were given. They will go into self-pity mode and feel sorry for themselves. And all I'm saying to you is, look at that book I'm talking about, that it didn't start with you. Look at some family constellation work. It's hard. Go to a family constellation where you physically have to sit there. You'll be asked, would you like to do some work? You'll be asked to pick a member that you never met in your life. They're not actors. And they will attune to you very, very quickly. And you will see your life played out before your very eyes. And you will say to yourself, they hadn't got a chance. What options had they got? What choices had they got back then? They hadn't got any. That's not a green card to forgive them, but it's definitely an opportunity for you to, before they pass over, is to sit with them and say, listen, again, using the analogy I said already, you want to start a fight, start with the wooden you. You done this, you done that. There's a scrap straight away. Where you just say, as mom or dad, I remember when you were a very angry person. I never knew where your anger came from. I don't know your full life story. Maybe I don't need to know it. But I want you to know that your actions and reactions, or lack of them, or lack of being present or available as a parent, has had a huge effect on me. I don't know how to be a parent myself. I'm very angry myself. I don't know what to do with this. And like anything in life, to some degree, probably some of your listeners have witnessed it, where 1,000 stories won't be enough, but the one sincerest one will just absolve everything. It'll just be okay. You'll understand when you hear the story. Or if it's too painful for them to go there, you're going to have to accept that it's too painful for them to go there. And if you're 40 years of age trying to explain this to an 80-year-old or 60-year-old, and it's taken you 40 years to get this out, it could take them another 40 years, and they mightn't have the luxury of that time. So whether you want to hold on to that, if you want to stay handcuffed to that misery, I invite you to do that, but blame yourself for it, because you're in awareness of it. But if you want to do something about that, and if they tell you, well, I don't accept this and I don't accept that, that's okay. I accept that. I am just leaving with you what happened to me, my experiences, and how they affected me and how they're affecting me today. And I'm just leaving that with you with love. That's all. I'm not here to blame you. I'm not here to judge you. It simply is what it was. But I have to make a conscious effort to sit with my family now and eat some humble pie and tell them a bit about what I heard about your story and how it's trickled on through into my life, because I was conformed that way. I was told by the schools that's the way to do it. It's amazing when you're 6. I think it's amazing. Even up to the age of 7, you can draw on the wall with crayons, and that's okay. You can slap another child, and that's okay. You can steal money, and that's okay. But the minute you make your communion, that's wrong. You know better. That's wrong. God told you that's wrong. All of a sudden, a split second, everything you've been told is okay is wrong. But nobody adjusts you into that. They don't ease you into it. It's a harsh reality shock that you can't do that. And they don't explain why. Because you know why? They don't know themselves. They're nearly hypocrites. When you keep asking them why, they'll come out with the same answer. Because that's just the way it is. You can't do that. You won't go to heaven. You'll end up in hell. You'll go to prison. Where if you come from a different angle of love, and I accept that most people aren't in a place of love at the moment. They're probably in a place of denial, self-loathe, hatred, disbelief. I mean, there's days I get out of a shower, I'd have a cold shower just for the crack, And I look at the scars on my body and I'm like, what the fuck happened here? And I look in the mirror and my voice, I'm like, geez, I sound like old. I sound like a real deep voice. I don't sound like me. And I do it through meditation, through self-care. It doesn't take £1,000 to fix yourself. It's simple. If you like a cup of coffee and a cream bun, have the fucking thing. Light a few candles. Have a bath. Listen to the music you like. Get into bed. Middle of the bed, legs apart, hands apart. Start with the breath work. Breathe through it. In for 5. Hold for 5. Out for 7. And keep doing that till you pass the fuck out. And set a lovely intention. I want to know myself. I want to love myself better. I want to like myself more. And when those monkeys play in your mind the following day with anger, there's a very famous saying I say, especially when people are negatively projecting. Play it in your mind first. So I'd say to you big, fat, specky, ugly bollocks, just like me. So I'm hardly going to let them words leave me mouth, am I? Because I'm talking about myself. I'm mirroring, all I'm doing is mirroring. And anything anyone has to say to you in a negative way is none of your business. They are merely mirroring how they're feeling about themselves. And the only way to meet that is love. If I attack you verbally, I know you're going to come back at me verbally. I know you're going to switch me off this channel. I know you'll put your fingers up, you'll do something negatively back. But if I meet you with compassion and love, nobody knows how to fight that. All they'll come up with is, what's he up to? He's up to something. Hold on a minute. Why is he being nice to me? My girlfriend will give out to me. Just give us a minute, love. Oh, there you go again, you're not listening. No, just give us a minute. I'm upstairs running a bath, the candles are lit, knickers and bras on the radiator, the bed is pulled across and there's a glass of wine. I'll run back down and say, sorry about that, love, what were you saying? And then I'll say to her, listen, I wasn't aware I'd done that. You're just assuming that I was. Can you do me a favour? I'm giving you permission that the next time I go on like that, can you tell me I'm doing that? But don't come at me in a hostile manner. Just say, hey, Darren, you're on this path again. Can you calm down? And then about 10 minutes later, I'll say to her, listen, come upstairs. I'm not going upstairs. She'll still be in anger. Come up here. I just want to have the apples for a minute. Jesus, what? Does I have a bath run for you? I don't want a bath. Well, pull the plug. And 5 minutes later, she's in the bath. And then I'm sitting on the jacks with a bottle of beer and she's having a wine. Listen, chicken, you came at me very aggressively there. That's not normally the way you would go on. How was your day today? How did you get on? Did somebody upset you or piss you off? Was it really all me what I said? Because if you know me as well as you think you do, you'd know that I wouldn't be coming from that place and that I may be unaware that I done that. Or maybe I'm transferring some shit that I haven't cleansed off myself after a client. And I need to know this. Well, no, actually it wasn't you. Now, you did annoy me about leaving the tea towel on the sink and not folding it. But me ma had a go at me. Remember the other day, me ma had a go at me dad when she was lashing out at me and I don't know how to handle that. And then we'd have a discussion about that and then she'd get out of the bath and I'd dry her off and say, jump into the bed. And then I'd wash the thing down and I'd say, you relaxed, yeah. So how did the discussion start with your ma first? Well, she said, and then you just dialogue. And before you know it, you're rubbing her little hair on her face and she just passes the fuck out and nothing else matters. And what's more important? That somebody has to be right or wrong? Or the love that you share? You have to weigh that up very quickly. You have to weigh it up very, very quickly. Is it worth an argument? I will kill you with that much kindness that you'll end up sitting in the bed when I've gone downstairs saying, there's him treating me like a queen and I'm speaking to him like a piece of shit. And she'll end up apologising. So it's everything is about perspective. It's about the way you see things and how you view things. And I accept 100% from anyone that comes to me that we have been conditioned to look a certain way. This COVID thing has brought out the worst in people. They walk away from people now. If you're not wearing a mask, you're the reason of COVID. What they don't understand is it's simple mathematics. The planet, we're in the age of Aquarius. Everybody knows there's a full moon coming out on the 26th. You're probably in it now. There are changes happening. That's going to happen whether you like it or not. There will be avalanches. There will be floods. People will die. You know what that's called? Depopulation. The planet does it. I ask you a question. What has people noticed most over the last 5 years? They're becoming more aware. They're not agreeing with everybody else's opinion. They're not easily swayed. They're waking up. I can have a set of twins. I can bathe them, feed them, bat them. I can burp them and put them into bed at the same time. They will sleep at different times and they will wake up at different times. And humanity is exactly the same. We are all unique. We will wake up when we're ready. So it's no use projecting your negative, what you think, on somebody else. Stick in your own humility. Stick within your own power. Stick to your own core beliefs. Listen to your intuition and get out into nature. Get out into the woods. Listen to the trees under your feet. Listen to the bark breaking. Listen to that bird. Whistle back to it and see what happens. Lie down and let the rain hit you. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to sneeze and you're going to be cold and you're going to want to have a bath. That's all. But humanity wants to mask you. They want you to blame somebody for you giving them COVID. You're not getting the vaccine. You're not this, you're not that. I'm not being stupid with anyone here, and I'm not going to go off on a tangent about COVID. I'm 47 years on this planet, and be it diarrhea, food poisoning, a cold sore, something as simple as a cold sore, you get a tingling. Your brain tells you something's happening here. Then all of a sudden you get a burst. Then you get fatigued. Then you get run down. They're symptoms. But this planet wants you to believe, these leaders, that you can have no symptom. Well, I'm sorry, if you get no symptoms for in life, you're dead. You're going to die. It's simple, because you don't know you have it. Would you go to a dentist tomorrow and sit there looking at him? And if he asks you what's wrong, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. Well, what are you doing here? Oh, I just thought I'd come in and ask you to pull all my teeth. Well, there's nothing wrong with your teeth. Yeah, well, I haven't got a flu either and I haven't got any symptoms. But can I have a testing anyway? For what? If you're sick, go to the doctor. It's simple when it comes to spiritual work. I'll break it down very simple. Dentists deal with teeth. Doctors deal with illnesses. Surgeons deal with trauma and operations. Shamans, healers, deal with the dark side. We deal with the trauma. We deal with the soul loss. You sit down with a psychotherapist and try to tell him what I'm just telling you now. He will tell me I am nuts. I am psychotic. There is something wrong with me. It's not evidence-based. But you put 20 people in front of me that listen and put it into practice, and let them try to convince the 21 of us that we're mad.
I mean, that's what I see it. I see exactly what you're saying, and everyone that's working in the mental health field needs to have this perspective and point of view.
Yes, or not. Remember, these people. I've no agenda. You've no agenda. The people that are listening, I'm sure, have no agenda. Talk to me about the minimum. Talk to me about the porter in the hospital. What's his agenda? His agenda is work. Why? He has a mortgage. What else has he got? He's got kids. What does he need? Money. If he opens his mouth, what happens? He loses all of that. That's his agenda.
But so what you're talking about is true healing work.
Yes.
Versus sticking a Band-Aid on top of a severe wound and calling it fixed.
I haven't come across the bandage that can cover your soul, that can fix the traumas. I haven't come across it. All the answers are within us. We just need to be guided towards them and be rational about them. Don't be all cocky about it and fuck the planet this and fuck them and fuck everyone on the planet and the devil and the demon. The biggest trickery on the planet is the devil made you believe there is a devil. If you put as much effort into yourself, believing in yourself, as you do into something you can't physically touch, feel or see, you'd be laughing. You just need to be aware. Be awake. Do I need to do this? Do I need to say that? Do I need to upset somebody? No, you don't. Do you need a hug? Yeah. Are you afraid of asking for a hug? Yeah. Simple. Just go up to somebody. Are you all right? You look like you can do with a hug. The first thing they're going to do is give you a hug back. So both people benefit. Nobody has any agenda. Everyone walks away and you have a new friend. The spiritual path is the path of enlightenment. We're all hardwired for it. I don't believe there was anyone born a rapist or a murderer. or an addict, right? Through a few exceptions, through addicts having children and children born with side effects or
Right.
withdrawals. I accept that. But nobody is intentionally born evil. Not a chance. I don't believe it for a second. Not a chance. Circumstances, situations, life hurts, traumas, disturbances, and derailments at every second and every corner of life. They're there. That's the illusion. If you want to engage with that, I invite you to go ahead and do it. And you tell me what happens. And then I invite you to try the opposite way, the one I'm trying to articulate, is that you have a choice. You do have a choice. It's not about whether you're going to go to heaven or hell. It's irrelevant. When you die, it's simple. I've been there. You get the door handle, you walk through it, and within a split second, it may be 30 years up there, it's played out in slow time, and you have a choice. You've acquired all these knowings, these understandings, intuitive or experiential. Experience them for first hand, and you can go in there and sort that family out and guide them and stop that ancestral lineage crap seeping through to the next generation, etc., 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 till it's completely poisoned every generation. You have a choice to do that. That comes at a very, very severe cost. It came at a dear cost to me. It's called being fucked off out of get out of home. Who do you think you are? The non-conformist, the one that wants to bring up all the dirty secrets. Yeah, I didn't say I wanted to blame anyone. I didn't want to judge anyone. I just want to talk about what happened to me and why it happened to me and why you didn't do anything about it. What's your perspective on why it happened? You didn't say you didn't want to tell him not to do it again. The first thing out of your mouth was, I want to kill him. Why didn't you ask him what happened to him? I'm aware with the uncle, he was abused by a school teacher. It's no excuse. But if somewhere in his being that felt good to him, and it felt he was doing something good back onto another person, I'll accept that to some degree, with lack of knowledge or understanding that it's wrong and why it's wrong. If he hasn't got those tools, well then he only has one mindset, and he's dangerous. He's a predator. Some people are narcissistic by nature, egotistical, and it doesn't. They're so far into their own fucking lives that they refuse to go back because it's too embarrassing. And if embarrassment is the only thing that's stopping you from healing, well, you need to get out of your own fucking way, because you're the only one that's stopping that. You've 60 seconds in a minute. It's there for a reason. Use it. I've often had more arguments with girlfriends. Oh, you're agreeing with me now? Yeah. Oh, fucking 10 minutes ago now, you weren't agreeing with me at all. No, what I'm saying to you is, clearly is, what works for me works for me. And I accept that. And I accept the way I'm maybe putting it across is incorrect. And you're putting your slant or perception on it, which is making it a negative. But I've had time to listen to what you said, and I thought it out within those 10 minutes. And if that works for you, fair play to you. And I might actually try that someday. I might try it tomorrow. Oh, but you're agreeing with me. Yeah, I didn't say you were wrong. All I said I didn't understand it. But the more you clarified it, and the more calmer we were about it, it made logical sense that it works for you. And I'm happy it does. Oh, now you're patronising me. No, I'm just merely agreeing with you that it works for you. And if we can agree to disagree, sure, isn't that a happy medium? So in life, we have to try different modalities. But what I would urge your listeners to do is, whether it's addiction, whether it's alcoholism, sexual abuse, incest, whatever language you have, termination of a baby, the loss of a baby. You're trying to tell me a baby hasn't got a choice? The softest part of the head is there. That's the in and out for a child. That's where the soul comes in. I'm sorry what your belief is, Muslim or Jewish or whatever it is. I'm sorry if I say this and I offend you. But if your God is that powerful, if he's that powerful, the thought termination wouldn't have came in. The baby wouldn't have been blue born. It wouldn't have died in conception. It would have lived a happy life. Somewhere along that pathway between up there and in the vessel, the woman, that child realised, this is too much. It's way too much for me. I can't do this. And he had a split second to get out. And he got out. Whether that was through a termination or any other way, he got out. That's, believe it or not, I'm not expecting you to believe a word. In fact, I always say it, don't believe what I'm saying. But if you want to carry that guilt around with you, that doesn't belong to you, and your all-powerful God being is the Almighty, the Creator, well then go blame Him, so, and stop blaming yourself. Because He ain't going to come down and explain it to you the way I'm trying to explain it to you. Things happen for a reason. And this is a very famous saying of mine. Shit happens, so shifts can happen. It has to happen.
Absolutely.
Whether you want to agree with this COVID thing, that it's Mother Nature making a stronger variant, I accept there may be a collusion here with man-made and racism. Oh, we have the Indian version now. We can't cut the RNA off. Now, it's not a vaccine, because in order to treat it, you'd have to cut the RNA off and all that medical jazz. But if you forget about all that for a minute, we happen to know it's Indian. Would you fuck off? You want me to swallow that shit? That's getting me to divide and conquer. It's not bad enough you want me to hate my friend that's in front of me that wants to wear the mask. But I have to hate Indians now. And then I have to hate the American version and the English version and Swedish version. And then, remember the minorities they're going after. India, what's going on over there? They're poor, they haven't got fucking jack shit. It's easy to hate them. They smell, look at the colour of them. They have nothing, they're paupers. We're better than them. They're dividing and conquering us so that they have some on their side, and then all of them, they're passing the laws, and this is the way it's going to be. Nobody, I admit, 100%, nobody has stopped me in lockdown. I do not suffer with lockdown. I have a letter in the back of my car that says I'm a carer for Professor Ivor Brownie's 92, and anyone pulls me, I just say there. When I get pulled in a shop, I pull my top up and show them a scar where I was stabbed, and I tell them, right here, this one, I've only got one lung while I'm buying a packet of cigarettes. And they don't even question me. Well, you're not wearing the mask. Oh, I can't, sorry, a medical condition. I'm exempt. I have a scar there. I only have one lung. 20 John Player Blue, please, there. Thanks very much. And I'll light it on the way out the shop. Anyone with an intelligent brain will say, what the fuck is he smoking for if he's only one lung? I mean, surely he must be waiting on a lung transplant. You know, he's not walking around with just one lung. So if they can believe anything I will tell them, they'll believe anything anyone will tell them. All I'm saying is believe in what you believe in yourself. Stop negatively projecting. Do your homework on you. We are all gods. We are all unique. Whether you want to believe that or not is irrelevant. It's irrelevant whether you want to believe it or not. But if there was 1 million people on this planet, and you, my friend, did not exist, there wouldn't be 1 million. That's how important you are. And that's the way spirituality should be seen. Trauma will always be trauma, as long as you name it as trauma. I like to call it life hurts and disturbances and derailments. Somewhere along the way, something happened that was too difficult for us to deal with. And we had a split, the soul split from the body. We lost ourselves. We got confused. We became conformed. We joined these groups where all we talk about was the misery they're in. I do watch AA meetings. My God, an AA meeting. Fuck me. I came in from work today at 6 o'clock and my dinner wasn't ready. I'm doing as much as I can. I'm off to drink. I just said to her, where's my dinner? There was killings. You fuck off and make the dinner yourself. Stop projecting. Maybe she had a bad day. How many kids have you got? Everyone is projecting onto everyone else, and we're carrying other people's crap that doesn't belong to us. And what do we always have the conversation about, Josh? I remember I was talking to this fella, and he said this, and he said this, and he said that, and I said this, and we all said that. Shut up and mind your own business. That's how Chinese whispers start. He said something, then it got blown out of proportion. He said this and he said that. One of the questions I asked in college was on a Freudian question. And they said to me, go to this book. And I said, no, I'm not going to the book. Pick the phone up and ring him. What? I want you to ring Freud. Tell him Darren McGavin from Dublin has a question and I'd like it answered. He's dead. Right. Now, the book. Show me the book, please. Well, you can't have it. You have to buy it. Okay, I'll buy it. But can you just show me the book? I'm interested in see the name. Oh, Daniel O'Donnell wrote the book. Who the fuck was he to Freud? Is that his brother, sister, son-in-law? Oh, no, he's somebody that came from a Freudian school of thought. Okay. Did the fella that taught him that and tell him to read the book, is he into Freud? No. So all we have is people writing books on their interpretations based on their experiences or not their experiences. Sell a book for an agenda to make money or for ego. I'm an expert on this because I wrote a book. As I said to a psychiatrist before, it was very, and now talking about sticking a minute. There must have been 400 people in the room. It was a lecture. And I said to him, can I ask you a question? When you're speaking, is that coming from experience or from a book? Is it academia? Can I ask you a question? Yeah. Anyone ever hold you down and anally rape you? What? What did you say? There was like 400 passport photographs in the room. They were all like, did he just say what I thought he said? Yeah, were you ever raped? No. So can you tell me where you're coming from with your logic? So if I had a 7-year-old child on my lap and I put my hand on his penis, what might he be thinking, please? Well, I suppose. Well, I didn't ask you to suppose. I asked you to tell me. Well, I think what he might be thinking, I didn't ask you to think either. You should know this. You're claiming to be an expert on it. Tell me what the child will be thinking. Well, I don't know. Thanks very much for your honesty. Anyone else got a question? And that's what's happening. Too many people are allowed the right to be an authority on something. I'm not an authority on you and your show. I was very apprehensive getting on. I'd never done the Zoom thing before in a 2-hour session. I wasn't aware of how you ran your program. You gave me a link and I watched it for about 10 seconds because I'm not going to conduct my business based on the way somebody else answers a question. And I said to myself, no, Darren, stand in your humility and your honesty and we'll dialogue before. He made it quite clear we'd have a half-an-hour chat on how it may or may not go. I gave you some things and you said you were interested. You were a little bit fearful of going there and I got you to say, well, I can't just, when you go to a therapist, you can't just say, well, what happened was I was raped. You can't just say that. You have to say, well, I remember when I was 5, this happened. And when I was 6, this happened. And when I was 7, this actually happened. And that happened till I was 12. And it got worse. You have to give the story. I'm aware that there are platforms out that don't allow it. And I leave that with them. But this stuff that I'm speaking about is true. You can Google my name. It's Clerical Abuse After Darren McGavin. Don't get engrossed in my story, please. That's my story. You have no right to feel sorry for me. You can have empathy and you can understand and you can get something from it. That's my story. I will deal with that. And I have dealt with it. And I'll continue dealing with it until I draw my last breath on this planet. And I will bring it with me to my next life as my blessings and my education to help other people help themselves heal. I don't do that for anyone. I merely facilitate to the best of me. There's times I don't charge. Psychiatrists always ask me, how much do you charge? I said, well, Ivor says I should be charging €120 an hour. Sometimes I would spend 3 hours with people because that's what they need. I need to get from A to Z very quickly with you. My job isn't to hold you to pay for my new car for 3 years. My job is to bring you into awakening, enlightenment. And all you have to do after 2 or 3 months is to ring me. This is with me at the moment. What's your take on it? Well, what's your take on it? Well, I think this might happen and that might happen. Well, try it and tell me how you got on. What, if they go down both them paths? Yeah. That's where the medicine is. That's where the soul medicine is. That's where the healing is. It's within you. Psychiatrist isn't going to fucking give you any healing. He'll give you medication. And you ask him what the side effects are and he'll give you the same fucking story every other one was. Well, let me tell you, everyone differs. You ask people that commit suicide, I'm sure they'll identify with me. I come across people with all types that's with them. They mightn't necessarily be depressed. They might be confused. They mightn't understand something. They mightn't have clarity. They mightn't be depressed. They mightn't be suicidal. But when you take the fucking tablet, it tells you in black and white, maybe suicidal. Yeah. You may kill yourself. You didn't have them issues a few minutes ago. And then what did you do when that happens? Doctor doesn't know your GP doesn't know how to deal with you. What does he do? Refers you. He doesn't want to know about the dark side. You know why? Knows nothing about it. Then you go to the psychiatrist. He runs out of the scale to one. He's not sleeping, that's insomnia. He's cleaning all the time. Maybe you're cleaning because you like to clean fucking house, not that you have OCD. You just happen to like a clean house. You might like to have 5 baths a week because you're an Aquarian and you love water. I was out watering me decking today, and my neighbour said, Darren, it'll be raining in about 10 minutes. I says, yeah, I want to get there before it. So I washed me decking down, and I hosed myself down I felt the coldness of the water, and I went in and I had the bath ready, and I sat there with a nice cup of coffee, and I gorged myself in a lovely bath. And I said, isn't this lovely? Now I'll tell you about trauma and cathartic. Sometimes we get into a spate of coughing. Something's with you. Do not stop that. That is a process. Go to your nearest sink and grab a spoon or your fucking toothbrush. And as it starts, think of what's coming up for you. What's with you? What got you to this point? And keep fucking coughing. Even if you're in a bath. So what? You're covered in puke. So it won't be the first. Won't be the last time. Shower it off. It's grand. And thank your body for getting that toxicity out. When that diarrhea comes out, you cleanse the body. Get it out. Get that motherfucker out. And attribute it to something. I was thinking this today. That had to happen. It has to happen. If you've food poisoning, you have to get sick or you will die. You have to.
Right, you got to purge it. You got to get it out.
You got to purge it out. Don't be afraid of it. You're going to be covered in sick and diarrhea. Get the shower head, shower yourself off, fill the bath with hot water, throw some bleach into it, wash it down, job done. Nobody needs to know. Anger. Sit with the anger and the rage. We call it anxiety. It's not anxiety. You have an apprehension. It's not anxiety. It's an apprehension of a thought process that you're not familiar with, that's reoccurring because it hasn't been dealt with. And you're sitting there doing the rattling and the shaking, and you're holding the stomach and holding the pillow. I want you to remember what happened to you. Visualize, use your imagination, get the fucker's face and get it in there, and get the pillow and scream into it. Scream your lungs out, and have your basin ready to get sick into it. And let it go, and thank him for that. And when you start healing and when you start feeling good in yourself, synchronistically somebody would say, Jesus, Josh, just notice your man said something about you there and you didn't respond that way to him. Yeah? What happened there? Haven't got a clue. Just chose not to respond to him. Jesus, that's mad. But I seen this shaman the other day and he spoke about this stuff. Shaman. Okay, what's that all about? Well, we all have different interpretations of what a shaman is, or a shamanic practitioner is or isn't. I believe we're all hardwired for it. We just have to wake the fuck up.
Oh God, isn't that true?
Look through the illusions of life, and remember, when you have doubt and negativity, tell yourself this is an illusion. I am not this person. I am not the person that done this to me. I am better than that. And I will name it. I will pull my children up and say, I was abused. I'll wear it like a fucking badge. I was raped. And I will do something with the perpetrator. I will do something with my family. I'll do something with my children, and they will know it inside out. And they know it was wrong and that it's not right. And that I'm okay. It wasn't nice, it wasn't pleasant, but I'm okay. It didn't kill me. It nearly did, but it didn't. And now when people come to me and they talk about whatever they talk about, I tune in straight away. My Bluetooth is on all the motherfucking time. I tune in straight away to them and I tell them the stuff I help them along, I nudge them along in the process. And they feel the benefits, and sometimes the partner might ring me and say, he went off on one again. That's okay. He's finding the frequency that's right for him. We are all on different frequencies. We're all on different vibrations. We all hear music differently. We hear jokes differently. We hear stories differently. We sense things differently. We feel the temperature, the cold differently. We are that unique. Nothing is the same. You put two people in front of me, 2 women, 2 men. You get the same person to rape them the same way, for the same amount of time, with the same anger or whatever was going through their head. Those people will have different stories, different experiences, completely different. And I cannot put a one, like pharmaceutical companies do, one shoe fits all. I'm sorry, it doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't.
Well, and the pills are just like we said earlier. It's like putting a band-aid on a massive bleeding wound and expecting that to fix it. It's
I'm not.
it's
I'm not anti-medication. I just want to state that sometimes it does take a suppression of some description to suppress you, to lower your mood, whether it's alcohol, a drug, or a pharmaceutical drug, a magic mushroom, a psychedelic. It could be a person, it could be a cake, it could be a bat to suppress you. But when you know what it is, let somebody know so that they can be there with you while that happens and to explore that. But you're right, it is the pharmaceuticals just seem to think one shoe fits all. It doesn't. I'm sorry, it doesn't. They're wrong. And big pharma's on the way out the door. You don't believe me? Turn on Facebook, go into your news feed, show me how many pages has the word holistic, yoga, kundalini, shamanic, awakening. We are coming into the age of Aquarius. We are awakening. It has taken so many hundreds of thousands of years for this to happen. It's going to take a good few years for this to resolve itself. Mother Nature has hit us with a virus. I didn't finish me story. What has people started to do? Fruit shakes, eating more fruit, eating nuts, finding out what their allergies are, staying away from pork, staying away from meat, staying away from breads, staying away from stuff that makes them lethargic. They're going on walks, they're going on jogs, they're going to the gym, they're doing their eyebrows, they're doing their nails, they're looking after their appearance. So it's the survival of the fittest, I would call that. If you're healthy and you're well, it's amazing. You get COVID and they've no vaccine and they've no cure for it. Now they tell you the vaccine will have to be given every 2 years or every year. And that you could have it still and pass it on, and you still have to wear a mask, and you can't jump on the fucking plane. So what's the point in putting the vaccine in? Read AstraZeneca. It says it. It's an instrument. It can't be a vaccine. They tried the vaccine flus. They tried to separate the RNA for millennia. Even the flu kills 500,000 people a year minimum that we're told of. Remember, only what you're told. And now you can't do an autopsy to find out if it's COVID that kills you, not something else that your lungs gave in, or because you smoked for 20 fucking years, and Mother Nature's made this flu because the depopulation. And now who will we give this COVID to, this jab? Let me see. And it's amazing, you can have a pint of Guinness in Ireland. You can have a pint of Guinness, a sandwich, and a soup. And the COVID is that intelligent, it can't come near you. But if you only have a pint of Guinness, you're fucked. You're dead. It will get you. Now, children can't get it. For some reason, it just can't go near children or dogs or mammals or fish or any of that shit. So what do? We're giving ourselves rises all the time. We live in swanky houses, big cars, big bank balances. So people have contributed to their pensions. So we give it to them. So we don't have to pay their pension out every week. In Ireland, the pension equates to about €200 per week. So there's an agenda. So if they're dead, they just call it COVID. And how does the COVID kick in quicker with an elderly person? Simple. Since I was a kid, I was picking chewing gum off the ground and spitting out the stones because I couldn't afford chewing gum. Didn't die from it. I've been eating flowers out of gardens the dogs pissed on. I didn't die from it. I've been eating stuff and vomiting and diarrhea. Didn't die from it. Oh no. So what do they want you to do? Sanitize. Wash your hands 24/7. Wear a mask. So what happens then? Stay inside. So you're isolating. Your immune system drops because it's not around all this contagious stuff. So you have no immunity. So when your visitor comes and visits you, they're picked up. I find it funny. You wear a mask and the spit can't come out. But you can go to the shop and pick up a carton of milk that 400 people picked up and check the date on it and bring it home.
Mm-hmm.
They don't tell you, oh, by the way, if you just take a vitamin C tablet that has another vitamin D in it, It only costs €2 for the tube. Take one a day. Take some magnesium. That's probably a fiver. Vitamin D, 30 for £3 in Lidl or Aldi. Take one of them every day. Boost your immune system. Watch what you're eating. Diet, exercise. You'll be fine. But here's the catch. I think this is brilliant. Your doctor surgery has to close. So when you catch the COVID, you've just to tell everyone that you have it. Keep everyone at home for 14 days and you're cured. No tablet. No vaccination, and you're brand new. Like, that doesn't even make fucking sense. You'd have to be literally mad to believe something like that. You'd have to be mad. I don't doubt for 1 minute that somebody did not die of COVID. I don't doubt that for a moment. But I would ask you, first of all, what was their underlying hereditary conditions? What age were they? What health were they in? What other issues had they got first? Were they healthy? Haven't heard of any healthy people dying of it? No. I would nearly go as far as to say to any doctor or any hospital, stick this thing on my ears, leave the laptop with me, put me in a room with ventilators with people that have it for 14 motherfucking days, and I'll bet me bollocks to a barn dance that I come away with not even a sniffle. Because my immune system is all right. I'll go for me walk, I'll take me vitamins, and I'll be fine. So that's all the illusion. That's the COVID shit out of the way. Your spirituality and your trauma is none of your business. You just happen to be in the right place at the right time, depending on your perspective. If you want to see this as a burden, you sit in that misery of sympathy and bathe yourself in it. And I'll ask you one question. How far has it got you so far? How healed do you feel from it? And the people that choose to be with empathy and understanding and to accept it for what it is and that it's made you a better person, tell me what mindset you're in. You'll find you're the two completely different mindsets. And I accept at some stage you will slip into the monkey mind. That's where the demons are. They want to pull you back. They want to pull you back into that negative thinking space where you're going to lob and not do that and feel sorry for yourself and stay attached and chained and shackled to the misery of something that doesn't belong to you. Doesn't belong to you whatsoever. It's ancestral. It came down through the ages. It's conditioning. It's lack of education, lack of understanding, and most of all, the biggest one, it's fear. Fear of talking about it, fear of shaming it, fear of naming it, fear of accepting it. I have a cousin that's related on the father's side. She's 48 years of age. She always tells me every 3 months, we must sit down and have a yap. I know her story. I know what happened. She has terminal cancer stage 4. She'll be lucky if she sees October, and she will die with that secret. But everyone told her to shut up about it, say nothing. Me ma's alive. We don't want her upset. And when the ma died, say nothing to anyone else. Let it go. That's in the past. Forget about it. It's no use. What's the point in bringing it up now? What's the point? It's fucking killing me. That's why. That's the point. And she is dying. That's a fact. She will die. So people have choices. You've lifestyle choices. Some are good, some are bad. If you can see the positive in the negative, you are laughing, my friend. Laughing. That's your lesson. That's the nugget of gold. That's the belief structure you have that something is working for you from a negative perspective. You will again fall out of your intuition. You won't do your daily practices of meditation, eating properly, not drinking sufficient water, not bathing yourself, smoking too much because you're feeding the anxiety. Because when you smoke, this is really what you're doing. Instead of breathing normally, what are we doing? Watch people when they're smoking. They're not even smoking. They're just getting air into their lungs, but there's toxins in it. That's all. You learn to breathe properly. Learn to eat properly. I don't know whether you're aware of I'll give you 2 more scenarios. One is on food. There was a case study, both of them were done in America. They took an obese, if you want to use that language. I don't. It's just people that eat for comfort because of their traumas. Some can be medical conditions over or underactive thyroid glands. I accept that analogy as well. Nonetheless, they put two groups of similar ages together with the same diet plan they said that they would normally eat every day. They told one group, this is an experienced dietitian, they put them on a very strict diet. They could eat as much as they want, but it had to be the right food. They put the same amount of people in another room to eat whatever they wanted to eat, no diet plan, and all they were to do was to chew their food 33 times. Break it down and drink your food with water so that it broke down, it gave the digestive system a chance. The people that ate the food 33 times lost more weight, every one of them, than the ones that were on the diet plan. That's a fact. Placebo. Well, let's talk about placebo for a second, because it's about control again. There was a guy, again, it's a study in America, you can Google it yourself if you don't believe me. He said they had a tumor. They brought them in, showed them a photograph of the tumor. You'll be dead in 6 months. Again, what people normally do when they're told they're dead in 6 months, they believe and they go home and get ready to die.
Right.
They do it straight away. Go home and die, and they want to tell everybody. They want to tell a stamp, in case the stamp gives a reply. And they go home and die and they smoke more. This doctor seen the placebo effect. He had it up on a screen that there's this guy after doing research, and if he takes this injection once a week for 4 weeks, he will be fine and the tumor will disappear. And hence the treatment began. 4 weeks later, he was investigated by 4 separate oncologists, and they found no cancer and no tumor. Somebody told this guy about the placebo effect. Within 3 months, the tumor was back. This went on 2 occasions. He left, it came, it left, it came. In the end, he chose to believe that it was a tumor, and he died of it. He died of the tumor. I watched a video, a live stream on Chi, on a load of little Japanese guys. It was very interesting. It was like watching Death Row. There was a panel, a screen of a load of people watching a live feed of a camera in on a tumor. And then they had a photograph of the exact same tumor. They measured it, that it was identical. Everyone was in agreement, doctors alike. Again, there was 4 different doctors that examined this guy. These little Chinese fella went in around the bed, had a look at the tumor. They all agreed they weren't doctors. They knew where it was, and they began their meditation. And all you could hear was in the background, fucking hell, look at that. And the camera panned around to the live feed, and that tumor shrunk. It shrunk so far that it wasn't visible. The guy got off the table. Over 3 months, with his eating healthy lifestyle and meditation, he went back, and the doctors came to the same conclusion for the original doctor that had diagnosed him. We cannot find cancer. We cannot find the tumor, and we have no explanation where it went to. They wouldn't believe that it was just the Chinese. They said it may have had an effect, but they won't, that can't be scientifically proven, so it can't be taken on board. So, in essence, what I'm really trying to say to you is, your belief structure is everything to you. If you want to believe in something negative, negative things will happen. If you want to believe in positive, positive things will happen. It mightn't happen exactly when they're meant to. They'll happen exactly when they're meant to, and not a second before it. You hear people saying, they speak about me this way, where were you 10 months ago? Where were you a year ago? Did you pray for somebody like me? Yes. Did you pray to your angels? Yes. Did you pray to your grandfather? Yeah. But I'm not going to apologise for being late. I arrived exactly when I was meant to. Are you now ready to do some work? Yes. I fuck with you not. This is going to be hard. The energy it's going to take to do this work is no greater than the energy it takes to suppress it. And that it's just having an effect on your emotional, physical, mental, psychological, and sexual well-being. As a spiritual being, having a human experience or an inhumane experience. The only difference will be if you do the work, you will move forward, and the past will be a place of reference, not residence. And People will notice it in you. They will see. You don't need people applauding you for how amazing your attitude is that you've changed. You need to believe it in yourself. Because if everybody dies tomorrow, Josh, who's going to look after you? If you don't know
Right.
how to look after you, nobody else will. No, tell me how many people knocked at your door today to ask you how you were,
None.
or have you got food? How are you feeling about your mother? How are you feeling about the thing you spoke about before you came on board? How are you feeling? Are you hungry? Did you eat? Will I prepare something? Nobody does that. Nobody does it. We have to start doing it for ourselves. Look at Indians years ago, native Indians. They just fucked off. They hadn't got a clock. But for some reason, when they came back, there was a kettle boiling. There was smoke everywhere. The women were welcoming the men back. The skins were carved off and they were dried to tan off. Everybody ate from the same pot. And everybody spoke. There was somebody older, they were wiser. And they knew things and were able to dialogue. But there was nobody saying I was the champion. That's why in the spiritual realms, as you're aware of, we don't have a head of the table. We sit in circle. And
Yep.
everybody's opinion, or I wouldn't even go to opinion, everyone's experiences, or healed or not healed, are just as valid as the next. Whether they're healed or not, they're entirely valid. Because why? If it's not healed, that's ego kicking you, saying you could go back there very quickly. You need to listen to where this person is at the moment. And you will create a bond with somebody, and you will bounce off that person. And you may say, I need to ring you, something's with me, I'm not sure how to deal with it. Well, what happened? What's with you? How did that happen? Who caused it? How did it affect you? How is it affecting you? Is it affecting your eating? You have cramps in my stomach. I can't hold food down. I can't hold water down. I've diarrhea. Me nerves, I'm waiting for the doorbell to ring. I'm waiting for bad news. And the most famous one I get is brilliant. So this is our first session. What did you get from that? Yeah, it was brilliant. And when will I be better? What? When will I be well? Well, are you patient? Oh, Jesus, yeah. Well, you know, just before you die. Yeah, just somewhere around there. So make your amends now. Say all your sorries to all your ex-girlfriends for the way you were, the way you treated them, and why. Don't give them excuses. Tell them the truth and the facts. And you accept that if they don't forgive you, that's okay. But you felt they needed to know the full story and that you weren't brave enough or strong enough to tell them everything. And you're dealing with it as best you can. And it's just that simple. Remember, in the Bible, what does the Lord say? I find this fucking ironic. The Lord knows every hair on your head by name. And no matter what you do on this planet, you shall be forgiven. Because God forbid if he doesn't forgive you, you're going to go down and join Satan's army. And then there's more of them than there is of him. So all he's asking you really to do is like, be mindful. Forgive yourself. Try and let things go. And learn from them, their lessons. They weren't very pleasant lessons. But it happened long before you were here. And we're doing our best to resolve it now. And that's all you can do is your best. And accept that some days you may have a bad day and you'll fall back into your old pattern and program. And when you realise that, it's time to sit down with somebody and eat a bit of humble pie and apologise. And don't give a million apologies. You'll dilute the fuck out of the one sincerest one. Just be sorry, and what they do with that is none of your business. Nothing got to do with you at all. It's just that simple. Life is that simple. People create problems. As they say in life, for every problem, there's a solution. But with people like us, like-minded people, for every solution we bring, some fucking idiot wants to create a problem for it.
That's so true. Darren, we're getting close to the 2 hour mark coming up. There was a question that I want to read over to you. It says,
Yeah.
how would you help someone with low self-esteem and self-doubt?
Low self-esteem and low self-doubt has nothing got to do with you. Somebody has instilled that in you. Whether you were bullied in the classroom, whether you were put down by your father or by your mother that you'd never be good enough, that you'd never aspire to be what their expectations were of you. Have your own expectations. Keep them simple. You're not here to please anybody else. I don't care if you're 55 stone overweight or 55 stone underweight. I don't care if you're blind, deaf, coloured. It's fucking irrelevant. What somebody says to you in a negative way that has impacted in the way you've just phrased it is none of your business. That says more about the person, of what they didn't aspire to be, of how somebody made them feel, and the only way they had of getting rid of that was by dumping it onto you, so that you would feel that. How to build that confidence back up, we spoke about it several times this evening. You need to grow a pair of balls and go back to the person that said it, and you need to confront them about it. If they're not alive, I accept that. You need to reach to the inner child of the age of when that happened and start journaling. Keep a time and a date on everything, please. There's no longevity. You could write a journal for a month. You could write a 2-page or a 10-pager. Put down the truths and the facts of what happened, why it was said, and what context it was said, and what age you were and how you perceived it then. And how do you perceive it now? Is it really true? Is that statement true? No, it's not. But the feeling is still with you and the emotion. So if the person isn't alive, go to their grave. If they've got an urn, get their urn out, get their ashes out, put it into a pot, put the fucking letter in, read it out to them, and tell them, I leave that with you. I don't accept that. And you burn it, mix it up, and put the ashes back in where they belong. If you've anger around that, I don't know what your circumstances are financially, get yourself a watermelon. Get a picture of the person and thumbtack it to it. Go to a secluded field with your fists or a baseball bat, and you read that out to that person. Burn it and transmute it, transcend it, let it go. And you let fucking rip on that till there's nothing left of that watermelon. And let that be justice served. And do it with love, our pure love, that you don't want it in you anymore, because it doesn't belong to you. And that you accept that somewhere down the ancestral lineage, somebody done that with you because you're of pure soul, you're born of pure love, and that wouldn't have been instilled in you as a soul. And that too was forced upon you. And you leave that with that person that done that to that person. And see, is there any shifts within you, any changes within you. And learn the lesson that you are more than your trauma. You're more than your disturbances, and you're more than your hurts. You're more than what anyone can give to you or do to you on this planet. You are pure energy. Nothing can kill that. After death, there is life. Trust me. I lie not. There is life. And if you can turn that into something positive, if you've learned something from that experiment or that experience of doing that, let that be your mantra moving forward and helping other people that are stuck in similar situations that don't know what to do. And don't second guess it. Don't think you know it all. That's ego. Get out of the way of that. Be humble. If somebody is crying and they're upset, under no circumstances, way, shape or form, have you any right to go into their space and hug them. That they're in the process. They're lovely diamonds coming from their eyes. Let that happen. Sit with them in their pain and their misery. And when they're finished, if they feel like they need a hug, ask them. If they want a tissue, ask them. Don't just give them one. Leave the box in front of them or the toilet roll in front of them. If they want it, they'll use it. Encourage them to recycle it into their face. And dialogue with them after what was coming up for them when that came out. And ask them how they're feeling. How are you feeling now? And I do a simple thing with all my clients. I send a text. Hi, just checking in. That's all I say. But I explain it to them before I do it. If you receive that text, that isn't, I'm worried about you. That's, I'm thinking about you. And you had a heavy session. And I'm available if you want to discuss it on the phone or through text. But if you don't, it does not warrant a thought. It doesn't warrant a reply. I don't want you coming to me next week saying, Darren, You sent me a text on Tuesday, I should have replied to you. I don't want to hear that. That's not what it's about. It's about saying simply, I care and I hope you're okay. And if you're not, reach out, please. So they are some of my experiences, good, bad and indifferent, in whichever way you want to perceive them to be. To me, they're blessings now. I'm delighted. I'd nearly go again. I'd nearly pull the jocks down and say, go again. Give us your best. But whatever's meant to be is meant to be, and the proof is in the pudding with me clients. They're coming forward. They're being more honest. And behind every story, your man in the car was beeping at me. He fucking wrecked me head. I was going to get out and smash him up. So what were you really feeling? Well, I had a nightmare actually. Had a dream. What was the dream about? And then they'll go into another story. So behind the story, there's a story. So again, with hope, when you're offering them hope, be patient, be tolerant, and give them time to speak. And if you don't understand what they're saying, don't second guess it and plumose them. Just say, listen, I don't really understand that. Could you explain that to me like I'm two? And they will. They'll explain it to you at the age of where it happened. And you will sit there and go, yeah, I can identify with that. Yeah, and if you can't, just say, I didn't experience that. Would you like to talk more about that? I'm intrigued by that. How did that affect you? God, I have a friend now that talks to me all the time, and she's sick going to therapists. And would you be interested in having could I pass the number on? It's about referral. You don't need a referral from a fucking psychologist. Refer to each other. We're all of the same. We all came in the one way, we're all going out the same way. We all piss and shit the same way. We have different thoughts, we have different ideas and different experiences. That's all. But we are all unique. You have to understand that. All unique. You can show me twins that are so unique that even the parent can't pick it out. Bring them over to me. I'll offer them a sentence and I will pick them out in a heartbeat. They are unique. And everybody has to be treated that way. And what anyone ever done to you is none of your business. It's been passed down through conditioning, through school, bullying, religion, or somebody forcing their agenda onto you, or their belief system. You want to get out of that belief system, just say, listen, I don't want to start an argument with you. My belief system seems to be different from yours based on our experiences, and I leave that with you with love. I'm here to listen to you, but I can't take on board your stuff. I'm sorry, because it belongs to you. And that'll get you out of that. Yeah.
Darren, I want to say thank you so much for this amazing night. This has been such a powerful show.
Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate your clients and your guests and your listeners for being patient enough to listen through. I'm aware that I would have triggered a lot of people here tonight. I want you to know that I don't give a shit. That's your shit. Deal with it or don't. That said, some things have to be said. Somebody has to say it. The Vatican didn't want to hear from Darren McGavin. The Vatican are afraid of me. When the conference on safeguarding was on last February, who did Pope Francis send over to Ireland? Papal Nuncio. Sent them to me with the Archbishop of Armagh and the Archbishop of Dublin, and 5 questions. One of them was, Darren, how can we fix this? They're open to change, but it goes beyond even the church, beyond the papacy role. But the language did change when I answered those questions, and they listened to me, and I had to be on defence. I couldn't be all for the victims. I had to say, listen, you mightn't have understood this. People might have lied to you as well, and I accept that. But you're aware of it now, so you need to do something about it now. A simple sorry isn't enough. All you have to say is, Pope Francis, there's 15,000 reports after being done. The Murphy report is 70,000 pages long. In my lifetime, I couldn't comprehend it, let alone read it. It's going to take me time to fix this. All we can do is be as honest as we can be. Truth and honest will prevail. Stay out of the bullshit and the monkey mind and the excuses. Stay away from all that. That's the illusion they want you in. Stick with the truth and the facts. And if you have to eat a bit of humble pie, the quicker you eat it, the sweeter it tastes, and you'll have no problem with the truth and the facts. None whatsoever. You are unique. You are special. And don't you ever forget that, please. Ever forget that. Never forget it. You said something, I hope you don't mind me speaking about it. I'll speak briefly. And I'd like you all to do this tonight if you can. It's an exercise. I'd like you to do your breathing, please. In for 5, hold for 5, out for 6. I want you to set a heartfelt intention for yourself and for somebody else that may need it. I want you to really do that. To really get into the breath and get humble and get true to your, get real with yourself. Get real with yourself. You're unique. There's only one of you. There's another thing I'd like you to do before you go to bed, before you start your intention. There's a poem out there, it's called The Dash, D-A-S-H. It talks of a man speaking a eulogy over a person. And what he speaks about in it is about the dash. The time we're born and the time we die. And what we do at that time. There's a lot of lessons in that, people. In that eulogy. There's a lot. Is there something you can do? I don't care if you're 98 years of age or 100 listening to us. You still have another second to read that. You have another minute. It only takes 5 minutes to read it. See, does it impact you? If you get upset, if you cry, allow that to happen. But boy Jesus, do something about it, will you? It's only a dash. But it means so much. Thank you very much for having me on board. I was a bit skeptical and a little bit nervous about how this may or may not. I like being challenged. I like being asked questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. What we have is a person doesn't understand something 100%. Some other people might say, well, what did he ask that question for? It was self-explanatory. It's just self-explanatory to you because you've experienced it. So we have to allow for that person. They have to speak to them like they're two so that they get it. And if they still don't get it, do not deviate. You need to ask the question, can you ask him it this way? You have to open it even further and broader till the penny drops. And that's where the nugget of gold is, and that's where the knowledge is. Aho.
Oh, thank you so much for this. And we'll be back on Thursday with Melvin Nix, and we'll be continuing our series on energy, and we'll be discussing chakras that night. Once again, Darren, thank you so much. If you want to hang on to the call for just a few minutes after the show ends, I'd like to chat with you a little bit more.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you very much, everybody. And good day or good evening or good night.
All right. Thank you. Talk to everyone later. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.